you for taking the time to show up here at Sunday at Mike's. Here we are another Sunday evening. So glad that everybody took the time to watch, whether you're watching live right now or if you're going to watch in the replay. Thank you so much for taking the time, as always, to watch. Well, I had myself quite an interesting week this week. Um, I tried something new this week. Just an hour ago on the channel on this channel, I released the regular content for the week, where I review something or discuss something. Hey, Mickey, welcome. Thank you for being here. Yeah, I took the time to put that content out an hour before this show. And I want to try that out because it gives me the opportunity to talk about it very briefly at first, because I usually get into a general topic in depth, but just as an opener to talk about the video. So if you watched it, the video that just released on the channel an hour ago was talking about the 335 versus the Les Paul, and in this case, my Epiphone Joe Bonamassa 335 and the Epiphone 59 kit Les Paul. Happy New Year, Ben. Happy New Year. Happy New Year there. Happy Sunday. Happy Sunday from New York. Sweet. Hey, welcome. Thank you so much for showing up. Yeah, I was talking about the differences between those guitars and my impressions after having them for a while. This is not the first 335 that I've had before. I had one when I was in Japan and Singapore. Not a very good one, I have to tell you. It was it was um, it was Harley Benton quality, meaning that it wasn't bad, but it wasn't great. It was certainly nowhere near to this Joe Bonamassa 335. But I had one. I gave it away to charity. But I never had a 335 and Les Paul really at the same time of any kind of quality. So to have the opportunity to take these two guitars that I think I hold in high esteem, as you guys know, that's got great quality to them, to put them head to head, and to see what I thought about them. And I addressed it towards the older player because one thing that I have noticed that with the 335, I really enjoy playing it over a longer period of time than the Les Paul. Both of them are basically around the same weight. But I suppose the ergonomics of it, the weight distribution of those two guitars, I'm finding that the 335 really is a more comfortable all-around guitar to play, whether I'm on a strap or if I'm sitting down. And it's funny. I chose my Les Paul specifically because I wanted one. My criteria was Happy Sunday from Dallas, Texas. Hey. Welcome. If we get somebody from the West Coast, we're hitting all parts of the country. That's great, guys. Thank you so much for showing up. Yeah, that 335 really left the impression upon me that as an older player, it's more comfortable. So I did a blind A, B, and C test. So you guys want to check that out. From Philly. There we go. Happy New Year's. Happy Sunday. And I tried to to do a clean and a semi-distorted A, B, and C test. I'm not going to spoil it for what the third guitar was, but when I was recording that, I really just remarked how similar, that 335 and that Les Paul are to each other sonically. You can't go wrong with either one. You really can't go wrong. But honestly, happy Monday from Australia. There we go. We've moved into the next day. Well, we're just a 45 minutes or 50 minutes away from that here myself. Um, yeah, and it just left that kind of impression on me. I thought I would share that with everybody and talk a little bit more in depth with that on my regular show. So check that out. Listen to that blindfold A, B, and C test. Your thoughts on the sire version of the 335? Does it give a Gibson a run for its money, and does it make Gibson worth it based on the quality? Yeah, all the sire guitars are really well made. One of the things that they really outshine, I'd say 90% of the import guitars, and certainly over the Epiphones, the one drop kick to the chest that they have over the Epiphones are their frets. The fret work on the sire guitars are second to none. I've never handled a sire, either the Larry Carlton 335 or some of the others, their Les Paul types, that the fret work wasn't excellent on. Um, um, in terms of a run for the money, the 335 and the Les Pauls that you get from Epiphone, um, with the exception of that fretwork, like I said, if they could nail down that fretwork at Epiphone, they really just nail it. They need to send a spy over to Indonesia to where they're making those Shire guitars and Sire guitars, and spy out how they're doing that, because they're doing a great job. So yeah, I would really go with the Epiphone, because the quality is better than the Sire guitars overall, other than the frets. Um, but for the price, they're not bad. I'm just really in love with those inspired by Gibson 335s, and of course, the 50s, the inspired by 50s. I think those are great guitars. So yeah, I got into that a bit this week. So the 335 and Les Paul, check that out, guys, and test your hearing and see if you can see a difference with those pickups. I couldn't myself, actually, in all three cases. So I always have a main topic to talk about, and played a Sire Marcus Miller bass recently. Well made, but weighed like a boat anchor. Well, I will tell you that right here behind me, you can see my Harley Benton, my other Harley Benton guitar, other than the single, the double cut, custom. This thing weighs a ton. you could you could smack down an elephant with this thing, seriously. And but my Fender, my made in Japan Fender bass that I had for years and years, that this replaced, were the exact same weight. I have, as I've said before, I'll say it again. I have never run into a Fender, any bass, P type or jazz type, that doesn't weigh a ton. It's just they're boat anchors. It's just one of those things. And man, I only play bass now sitting down. There's no way I would play that live. I'd have to go back to playing keyboards. Bass, I couldn't do it. My shoulders would. I'd be in rehab the next day. The main topic this week. There's two topics this week, but the main one, as you can see in the headliner, is NAMM no longer really something that's necessary? Is it really not something that is geared toward the modern age? And I am of the opinion, well, let me back up. NAMM has been going on for decades. Decades. I went to NAMM the first time. I got in through my mentor, Reggie Andrews. I was doing remix work for Motown at the time, Summer NAMM. It had to be 93, no later than 94, because I was working for Babyface by 94. But I was impressed by the amount of gear, the friendliness of everybody there, and it was just a great time, and it left a great impression on me. So I'm in no means a NAMM hater. I'm not negative towards it. I have fond memories of it. But that was a long time ago, and times change. NAMM really is about manufacturers courting retailers. It's just like any other trade sale. I think NAMM is still necessary to the brand companies and the young players coming in because that's what we've seen on YouTube, even some of it's older. Yeah. Now let me get into that. I'm going to talk on all those points. Yeah, it's really about manufacturers courting retailers. That is the guts of it, as was just one of the things that was alluded to there. And there seems to be this push and pull thing between manufacturers and retailers in terms of power plays. You can see that with the Guitar Center pulling some stuff when they don't like when things are going the way, and vice versa, them not getting stock. And it's similar with a lot of retailers. There's a balance there of power that has to be kept and maintained. And one of the places where they could, really develop relationships, business relationships, was NAMM. And they were necessary because of the climate of the time. And I'm talking pre-pandemic, through the decades, up from the time that I went there till pre-pandemic. It was necessary because there was that opportunity to build the kind of relationships that really foster a lot of innovation, I think. That gave a lot of opportunities. NAMM cost manufacturers on absolute forms in terms of basic success. Yeah, I'm going to touch on that too. I'm going to get in that. And that, I think, is something that should not be lost. That is the one thing, and of all the things that we could argue about what NAMM's value is, I think that is key. Now, I talked about that balance of power because really post-pandemic, NAMM lost and the retailers lost a bit of their power, and that's because of demand. The online presence grew because of the pandemic. Manufacturers had the biggest booms they had in decades. 400%, as I remind you, over a Fender during that period. And they had no need to promote anything or to make strike any deals with their retailers because of the demand. It was kind of hand in mouth if you were a retailer, if you guys remember. And, really that changed the landscape. You notice when NAMM got canceled and then when they came back, they went from having a winter NAMM to a summer NAMM to just having the NAMM show. And it's looking like that is repeating this year, April, again, a once a year kind of event. So even in that regard, that event has gotten smaller. So much so that a lot of the manufacturers like Fender and Gibson and some of the others are no longer actually sending booths and representing themselves down at NAMM. One of the reasons, as was just alluded to here, again, is because of the cost. Because of that demand that we were just talking about there, because of the pandemic, a lot of manufacturers are behind. The cost of shipping, the cost of components, the cost of woods have skyrocketed in the meanwhile. And we're going to talk about that in the second topic coming up. So we'll put a pin in that. But they are experiencing a backlog of orders. They are running up against a lot of supply jams and things that put them in a position that the expenditure of putting a booth together, putting personnel together, sending that is not a small operational cost to send a booth to NAMM. It's not a small cost at all. And in terms of what's going on with the economics of the world right now, also a result of the pandemic, we can see that would not be an appetizing thing because there's diminishing returns with NAMM at this point. It's just the fact of it, half the size, online presence has taken over, the brands are dropping out, the major ones are falling out. And that's a shame. I think, as much as I'm a part of that cog, I'm a cog in that particular wheel, I think that YouTube really became kind of a dominant thing there. I think that YouTube and presence of it's, you know, you got a Red Shaw or a Rick Beato, a Phil McKnight, or any of those other guys to cover something new that's coming out. You can bet your bottom dollar it's going to reach a lot more consumers than it is with NAMM. So instead of a top down thing with retailers to consumers, it became a consumer up kind of thing, is what I'm model, is what I'm saying. Kind of evolved to that. And consumers are going to demand and say, hey, I want this. And of course, the retailers are going to be hip to that as well. With any kind of salt, and most retailers keep a very, very, very close pulse to what's going, a finger on the pulse of what's going on in the industry. So yeah, you know, dig that. And so that's what I'm saying. That NAMM this year April is just one event. You know, and the brands themselves, they flourished during this period. You know, without it. And another thing about NAMM is that when I'll use the Epiphone 1959 as an example, they introduced that. I remember so clearly. I'm sure you guys do too. When Aldersons over in the UK were the first ones to get the scoop on the demo models of those two colors, the red and the brown. Goes it Desert Burst and whatever it is. I just call them the red and the brown. And they were showing them off, and everybody was really getting excited about it. When is this coming out? Oh, we'll have this out by June, they said. June came along and there was no mention of it, nothing at all. As a matter of fact, it honestly didn't roll out until October of that year. And when it did roll out, if you remember, it was in bits, it was in dribbles and drabbles. It was very piecemeal. I actually got one of the first shipments. I think the first shipment that went out worldwide. I got one of those. And that really demonstrated that putting something up at NAMM, you know, you really can't forecast the future, you know, best intentions and all that, but it really caused a kind of a negative PR for Epiphone in that regard. I remember, and you can go back in some of the forums and read about that, that people were really angry. Like, what the heck? You know, when is this thing coming out? They talked about it, and we haven't heard a peep about it. Well, you know, things were going on out there in the world, especially starting in China at the, you know, at the epicenter where the Epiphone factory is located. That had an effect on that, and to this day still does. You know, in another way. So NAMM proved to be kind of a disservice in that regard. And again, that coupled with the logistics of it, I just see it as being something that every year is just going to get smaller and smaller. Now, I actually have an opinion of how they could resolve all this. I really, you know, NAMM, you have to be invited. You have to have a pass. You know, I don't know what the current system is. I got in because I went in through Motown, through Reggie and Steve McKeever. Uh, but so I had a pass. I had to, you know, and they treated me great. I tell you, you got a Motown pass on, and NAMM in the '90s, you are the man. So, you know, that was something, you know, but that experience is not something that exists in this new era. And I think that they need to open it up. I mean, it's a trade show. They can't open it up to the general public per se. The auto show is a trade show as well. It is open up to the general public with a limited amount of tickets sold. I think that, you know, if they, you know, I think they could, is what I'm trying to say, is open it up like something like that to the general public. It would pay for a lot of things. It would, I think, if you had live bands, it would keep that young musician coming in and getting that thing that was discussed earlier when we first started talking about this, as well as those social interactions with those who are there to do business as well, but scale it down and make it more of a festival thing, maybe I was thinking. Um, with the kind of limited availability like at a car show. Because again, like I said, those are trade shows that they do open up to the public. So if they did something like that, I think that would move it into a new era. Yeah, security, security is always going to be an issue. But again, like I said, if you really limit it down, it's something that I think that could happen. I took your advice and ordered Epiphone through 35. Yeah, awesome. Hey, again, I was just talking about it. That Epiphone 335, you can't go wrong. And again, I told you guys there was the guy who had the Gibson, and he bought the 335 Inspire in the same color. And you can look for it on YouTube. I'm not sure of his channel, but uh, really, he went through it with a fine tooth comb. And after looking at that video, I was convinced that, it really comes down to, what we always talk about, that last mile, that last little something that the Gibsons have that, of course, the Epiphones don't, but you're not really missing out on anything. I would save the money and buy the Epiphone, and good choice, you know. I really like the Joe Bonamassa. It's something. I spent a little bit more time with it this week, of course, because I was shooting the video. I took it out of its case because, it's a case queen. But I enjoyed it. Yeah, guys, getting back to NAMM, those are just my thoughts. That would be my solution. Make it kind of a festival, the NAMM Festival. Limited tickets sold. Open it up a little bit more and scale it down. And that way, I think it can self-sustain and keep going at this rate with the manufacturers not really seeing it as, and this will be the test year. This will really be the test year. If NAMM hasn't been, you can bet your bottom dollar they got bean counters sitting in office somewhere trying to determine whether NAMM played a role in their bottom line or not. And I'm willing to bet it's going to find that these days it's not. It's a bottom up kind of thing. It's consumer up kind of thing now. And YouTube uh, channels like mine. Well, not like mine. Try not to be. Try again. I try not to sell you guys stuff, but but YouTube does push that, and it's become a dominant thing in that. So there's that. All right. Excuse me. Let me flip my notes over here. Okay. Next topic. How are we doing here? Oh, okay. How is everybody doing out there? I have a tendency to sit here and prattle on like my English literature professor. Sometimes I think, and I never ask, how are you guys doing out there? I hope you're enjoying this live stream. I'm digging it. I'm in Amsterdam right now. It is pouring outside right now. I can hear the rain on my window right here. Mickey, all good. Boy, Mickey, that you got to listen to that last video that I just put up an hour or so ago. That Telecaster that I'm using in the demo is that pickup. The bare knuckles, and that's a beauty. You can hear it. It's just a beauty. It holds its own. Should I change the strings immediately? Absolutely, for two reasons. First of all, you should be checking the intonation of it. If you don't know how to do that, then take it to your luthier. Yeah, that's going to cost you an extra 40, 50 bucks, but it's well worth it because once you get it set up correct properly, then you can then learn from that point how to keep it there. The next thing you want to do is you have your own strings. I'm picky about picks and I'm picky about strings. Uh, this is my pick. This is a Jim Dunlap. And this is, wait a minute, let me put on my glasses here. I can't remember. .67 millimeter pick. This is the pick that I've played since college. Just these and these alone. And that's it. You know, I buy them a bag at a time. And that's all I play. And strings, I get mine custom done now at a company in the UK. They do custom wines now. I'm really particular about those as well. And so I don't feel comfortable with the guitar until I've got my strings on. I use Rose Sound strings or Ernie balls. Either one of those will get you there. I used to use slinkies, you know. Slinkies was the thing, man. 9 gauge slinkies. That was it. That's all I played was 9 gauge slinkies for years and years until I found this company in the UK that make me my own personal wine. And not expensive either. You know, it comes out to about £6 per set or something like that. Yeah, something like that. £6 per set. Not expensive. Yeah, so in any case, you want to change those strings. Yeah, absolutely. Do that first. Clean the fretboard. Should I get nines or tens? Well, that's up to you. For blues, for Stevie Ray Vaughan type guys, even guys like Prince, all those cats played 11s or heavier because of sustain. The heavier gauge of a string, it just depends upon your sustain needs. The heavier gauge your strings are, the more sustain you're going to get. And then again, there's guys who are lazy like me who don't want to work that hard. I can't play sevens. Those are way too light for me. BB King once said that's where I was getting to, but why work so hard? You know, that's exactly right, Mickey. He said, why are you working so hard? You know, because he uses sevens. BB King uses sevens. So, you know, you got a spectrum there. It really depends upon what your sonic tastes are. I use 1052 on my strats and tellies, but on my LPs I play 11s. Yeah, again, the 11s are giving you that sustain, you know. And again, I'm lazy. I've got great finger strength, but I trade off the slickness. This is for a little bit less sustain using my custom nines. And BB's telling me, but you know, even with BB did a lot of glistening, he did a lot of, a lot of jazz notes, a lot of blue notes, stuff like that. And those sevens were perfect for that. He wasn't trying to, play Hotel California on it. Ace and nines are great for tight bottom end. So yeah, you can tighten up your bottom end with. That's one of the things that I like about with set of nines, because with set of nines, you're getting that perfect. You're getting that tighter bottom end. You're still getting a moderate amount of sustain, and with the right pickups, your mid range will just be killer. Guys, I was looking at the newspaper or the internet. I'm a big reader of a website called Zero Hedge. It's a financial website, and it keeps me informed on a lot of things. If you guys ever want to check it out, check it out. But they were talking about inflation in general, and it's something that we've touched on this channel a lot. I've been screaming it. I've talked about that snowball rolling down the hill. I've been mentioning that for quite a while now, a couple of months now, more than that, over a year. And then, I was intrigued, and I thought, I really wonder if guitars now, Gibsons or Fenders or PRS or Yamahas or whatever, Ibanez, whatever you want to talk about, are they really reflecting the rate of inflation that they should? In other words, are their current values equal to their inflated value over a period of time? And there's a way that you can do that. If you can find out a base value for something at a certain period of time, in this case, we're talking about 1980 is where I started as my base at. And I took the prices of a Strat in 1980, a Fender Strat, and all the instruments are too damn high. It's like the rent. Yeah, you know, it's hard to live in a Les Paul case. You gotta squeeze in real tight. So thank God that, you don't have to do that. But in 1980, a Fender Strat cost $870. I've been offered $600 more than I paid for my Gibson. So that's going tomorrow. I'll be getting a nice Epiphone. There you go. Hey, that's what I did. I told you, my whole, what was that, 3 or 4 Gibsons, a couple of Fenders there. At the height of the craze when retailers were desperate, I sold, I got rid and I bought Epiphones. Go figure. Not really unhappy about it. Not complaining. So a Strat in 1980 cost you $870, and a Les Paul in 1980 cost you $849. Now, to put that in perspective, in 1980 you could buy a used car for about $500 cash, depending upon where you were in the country, but in most places, $500 it'll get you, depending upon where you were in the country, it'll get you anywhere from a decent runner to a hoopty. But in any case, at that time, that was quite true. Most of my first cars, when I was a teenager, were used cars that I bought for cash. I had an AMC Rebel, 1966, 67 AMC Rebel. Metallic green. And paid cash for it. So, and it wasn't much, it wasn't a lot. Let's just take the Les Paul at $849 in 1980. If you plug it into an inflation calculator, if you got that value and you got that year you want to start at, you will find out that currently, adjusting for inflation, a Les Paul should cost you $3,067.43. Now, of course, we know if you go to the Gibson website, you can find a Les Paul for $24.99. I remember in the mid-'80s, I think the new Fenders are a little overpriced, to be honest. If you, yeah. All right, let me get into that. So we can see that actually Gibson is roughly $500 to $600 under the rate of current inflation. Now, I find that to be fascinating on a whole lot of levels, and let me tell you why. During the pandemic, the price of wood was skyrocketing. I mentioned this a little bit earlier, but some of the more exotic woods, we'll say, that are used for the manufacture of mostly Gibsons and Fenders and other guitar manufacturers outside of Asia was very expensive to obtain. Components were up 500%. You also had a period there where the price of gas was going up, so your transport costs were high. And even with this, they had to make price increases in terms of what it costs to manufacture that guitar, and somehow or another, they have still kept it under. I still find my Gibson and Fenders overpriced. Squire and Epiphones are better options for. We're putting the overpriced thing aside. I'm actually for saying something positive about Gibson. It must be, I'm waiting for the lightning to strike me. I'm actually trying to say something good here because Despite all of these things, they have been able to keep their manufacturing costs $500 to $600 below the current price of inflation. So that's to be commended. Fender as well. Fender has managed to keep their prices under their current value, under the price of inflation. Sky is falling when you're being, yeah. I'm telling you guys, I buy the Squire Paranormal guitars for playing good value. Yeah. Yeah, the Squire lines, the Paranormals, the 50s vibes in particular. Don't know about the 60s or 70s, but the 50 vibes, my 40th anniversary Telecaster, yeah, man. I alluded to this last week. The original Telecaster, the broadcaster, was a hunk of wood with a neck. That was it, and that's no different. I'll tell you that these CNC machines, modern production techniques, these current Squires are built better than those early Fenders, and that's that can't really be disputed. So yeah, you got a good value there. You got it's really all you need. Make a few tweaks to it, like I did with mine, and you're good as gold. But yeah, look at that. $24.99 currently. $3,067.43 at the current inflation rate. Now, I find that also on the obverse to be something that we all probably could take something from. I said to myself, okay, Mike, you know this now. You know that the 1980 Les Paul has a current inflation value of a rate of 3,067.43 cents. So what currently right now is a 1980 Les Paul going for out on the market? And I didn't just look at reverb. I have been recently accused of just looking at reverb. You know who you are out there. Actually, it made a good point. So I looked at a lot of different private sellers, retailers, and that had them to try to get a feeling for what those guitars are going for. And I was fascinated to find that they are going anywhere from $32.95 to $6,500 and up. That means in the case of the ones that are going for $32.95, they are closer to that base and that inflation rate of 3,067 than of course those that are going for 6,500. I thought to myself, gee, could we use this metric if we knew, if say for example, if we were interested in a 1980 Les Paul or Strat, if we could say, okay, in UK, a 1980 Les Paul standard is between 3 to 4K, a custom goes 6K. Again, let's look at, there's a lot of things that, guys, I'm simplifying this. I'm using it as a kind of a intellectual experiment here. There's a lot of factors that go into rarity, the amount that were made that year, of course, that's rarity. Collectors, the opinions of them. Well, the Les Pauls from 75 and before are considered better than the ones between 75 and 80, and the 80s are considered to be, from 80 to 85 are considered to be very hit and miss. So there are those factors in it, but just in a normal level playing field, if you could look at that rate of inflation and say, okay, this guy is asking me $3,250 for his 80s Les Paul. This guy's asking me $6,500. Let me really dig in a little bit deeper, because I think this guy over here is obviously blatantly overpriced. And of course, a lot of people out there, when I was researching this guy seriously, especially the 6,500 on an 80s Les Paul, and not even custom, we're talking about standard. And I could get into the anyway. The guys who are asking, and those were mostly private sellers, the guys that are asking in the 32 to 34 range, those were all the retailers. Everybody else that went up above that were private sellers. Those guys, man, I sometimes think that they chartered a plane, flew to South America, bought up a whole lot of cocaine, flew it back, created one huge, humongous, crack ball, and smoked it all at once because they are out of their minds if they're thinking they're going to get some of the prices that they're asking that you see here on these privates. They're nuts, and they're dropping their prices all the time. Every time you go on Reverb and check something, 5% down, 10%. Some of them dropped hundreds of dollars, and it's a funny thing. It's a sad thing because it's also pointing towards that snowball effect I told you. We're in the cusp of it. We can see it, but a lot of these guys are delusional. And so I was thinking, I'm going to use that as a experiment. I'm going to look at that. I'm going to see if there's some correlation there to look at the inflation rate of, and by the way, an 80s Les Paul, 1980 Les Paul or Strat or whatever is not a vintage guitar, by the way. So there's no vintage provenance on that at all either. So, some of these guys and what they're at, again, a lot of things go into it, but for the most part, a lot of them are really smoking crack. That's the only explanation that I can come up with to reasonably explain why you think you could get some of the prices on a 1980 Les Paul that some of these guys do. So I think that might be something to that, to kind of look at the inflation calculator. Okay, this is a 2001 Fender Telecaster. You'll have to do a little research, of course, because you got to know what the retail price was at that time. But if you can find that out, then you can get a baseline. You got to factor in, again, like I said, a lot of other things, collectability, and some of those other things. But at least it'll give you a kind of a baseline, I'm starting to think, or it is a way that may give you a baseline when you're out there buying something or selling something as well. So, yeah, something that occurred to me. Maybe some of you guys are out there like, no, no duh. But in coming up with this topic, it kind of occurred to me. I said, okay, let me look at this. And yeah, the retailers were the guys who weren't that far off. It's only vintage because of the age, but more than that, if you got a previous ephemera, then maybe yeah, and that's that whole thing, the pre and post CBS guitars, and the man, it is just it's a landmine. And that's why I always said avoid vintage guitars, avoid vintage, guitars. Really, unless you got a real hard on for it, I would avoid it. Uh, and really, I've had I've had the just buy red ready work. Yeah, but a regular one you can play. Like some cats here that I've just mentioned, and I mentioned myself, sell the expensive ones and buy the one that's the equivalent that in your mind's the equivalent. That's a little lesser price, still good quality, and just run with that because we're not getting any older, and things are not getting any cheaper. I touched upon that. What's crazy is that when I see old Sears, JCPenney, and Montgomery Ward catalog guitars, they were plywood. Yeah, we talked about that last week. I talked about the Dan Electros. Those were compressed board, particle board guitars. And now there's a cult that's followed around them, but they were the accessible ways for most players. I've also mentioned 1,000 times, and I'll mention it again out of respect and love for him that I have. But Edward Van Halen made his guitar. His guitars were all part casters from day one. And so there's a whole lot of different ways of going about it. But vintage, I would stay away from. EVH and we were just talking about that. Yeah, Brian May and his dad got together. Yes, sir, we do think alike. And I appreciate you bringing up Brian May and his dad because that's actually a touching story. Brian always has that connection with his dad. His dad's long past, but Dr. Brian May, a physicist, ladies and gentlemen, by the way, I started to read his paper. It was on atmospheric, I forget, but anyway, yeah, he's a physicist, a doctor in physics. Anyway, I digress. But yeah, he's got that connection there. So there's a lot of different ways with his pop. So there's a lot of different ways you can look at that and go at that. And but vintage, no, I like that 1975 Les Paul Custom that I was looking at down there in Utrecht. I don't know. He was a doctor of physics. Yes, he is a doctor of physics. Look up his. If you have a mind for it, if you have patience for it, you can find his doctorate thesis online on atmospheric particles. Um, I got halfway through it. I've got it bookmark in my Kindle. I'll get through the other half of it. But just to get an idea for his mind, and ladies and gentlemen, a couple of years ago, I went to a party in Singapore with a bunch of bank. I don't know why and how I was invited. I was invited through somebody to go there, and I was there with a bunch of bankers on this rooftop party. And this banker, Japanese guy, and I were talking in English and Japanese. He was fascinated with the fact that I could speak Japanese, and I told him my background living in Japan. And I was talking about different things, investment things. I think we were talking about gold at the time. And he said to me, I had no idea that musicians could be so intelligent. And I could have easily retorted something nasty. I'm sure you guys can fill in your own blanks of what you would have said. I chose to bite my tongue. Generally, around guys like that who have a background like he does, I find that their opinions, they're not very bright people. They only know how to put together a face and a suit and a demeanor that seems to indicate intelligence, but very rarely have I really seen it if you dig deep. They're very superficial. So I didn't really retort, but I could have pointed out, well, I'm sure that anyone going back to Brahms, to Mozart, to Tchaikovsky, to, Prince, to Dr. Brian May, he's a doctor in physics. And you're just some asshole banker. Yeah, there's a lot of things that could be said in that kind of situation, but I held my tongue. But yeah, brilliant cats. There is a correlation between brilliance, IQ, and your music abilities. But there is certainly a fine line between a high IQ and insanity. Keep that in mind. I keep mine at bay. I thank God that I'm not the particularly bright guy. So I don't have to worry about the insanity peaking too much. But there is a correlation there. So yeah, dig that. But there's a lot of different ways to go about getting those guitars. And I just, I thought to myself, that's just an interesting correlation between the inflation rate and, the current asking rate on a lot of these guitars. It's just another way, another thing that you should have in your ammo kit when you're out there looking to buy a guitar, when you're looking to buy something. So, yeah, dig that. Ponder upon, chew upon that. I certainly will continue to. I'm going to see if I can apply that metric on some things coming up here. It is, I think music is a wonderful vehicle, that creativity, thinking outside the box. Still, I'm just a musician. Yeah, at the end of the day, I'm just a producer. I have the ability to put things together in my head and output something that people find a value from a monetary and a creative enjoyment standpoint. So I'm happy with that. I'm content with that. I'm content with my where I'm at this place and time because I'm still here. Um, you know, I'm not 6 feet under. So that's all good. A musician uses parts of the brain no one else does. In fact, that is quite true. We do use centers of our brain that a lot of people don't have active or are not as active. Again, when you get into concert pianist and start doing brain scans on them, yeah, that is highly evident in the results. Um, but yeah, I don't take those kind of insults. That's a fact. Yes, that is a fact, Mickey. I don't take those kind of insults from people because that again, a statement like that in itself just shows ignorance. It's like again, you have to kind of develop a thick skin, especially when you just come to the conclusion, or maybe I'm just getting cynical in my old age, that some cats there's just no school in them. There's just it's a waste of time because you really don't know how smart or dumb a person is until they open their mouth. So sometimes it's better just to keep your mouth shut, especially you know, But anyway, I digress, or maybe not. This week, what are we doing? So I just released, as I said, the 335 versus Les Paul in pregnancy mothers are use music during gestation stages. Music is wonderful. Yeah, you know, Madonna famously talked about when she was pregnant with her first child how she would use music and some of those things, and that she feels contributed to the intelligence of her first child. Her daughter actually is a very high IQ individual, if you look that up. So there may be something to that. Madonna's daughter, Lordy, or something like that. Lordy. No, that's not it. But she's really smart. Maybe something to that. Yeah, we got to do something this week. So I just did the LP 335 thing, so check that out if you haven't checked it out yet. No, oh, I know what we're doing. So do I have it with me in here? No, I don't. In the next room still. The giveaway. So we're going to be wrapping up the giveaway, guys. If you're not hip to it or not, I am doing a giveaway of a Moore Shimverb, a really nice reverb pedal. I used it for recording up until I started using the Hall of Fame here, and I found the spring reverb on it to be quite good. And it's a quality pedal. And I wanted to give something back because you guys have given me a lot of things, materially as well as just, metaphysically that I appreciate. And so that raffle is coming up. We'll be wrapping that up this week. So probably this Friday or Saturday, I'll put up a quick video where I put the people who entered, who mentioned 3 things that I reviewed this last 2022, down in the comment section. You guys can do that with this live stream as well. I'll be looking across a couple of platforms and entering it in there, putting all the names in a hat, drawing a winner, and that person will be the owner of the Moore Shimverb, which is in excellent condition. It's really a great pedal, and it's really something that I can be proud to give away because I know people are whoever gets it's gonna dig it. There's no way you can't dig it. It's pretty cool. The shim function, that's a more of a I'm not into the type of music that the shim function would be for. From what I read, so I didn't really use it. I really use it for the spring reverb because, as you know, I'm using this F1 for my uh, my Fender tone, and you got to have a spring verb with that going. And I was using it for that capacity for a while, but no longer the Hall of Fame really kicks its butt. That in that capacity, the Hall of Fame it actually is a better one, but not by much. It's just a function. It has a few more functions, but the shim verb I never used. From what I've read, people say it's not that great. I'm sending you something this weekend. Also, so I expected, I expected off. Mickey, man, I appreciate. I'm gonna have to hook you up. I'm gonna have to think about that, man, because you keep on hooking me up with stuff. I appreciate it. Yeah, at the current rate, I had things that I sent to Japan at the beginning of December that they still haven't received yet. Christmas cards and gifts and things to my friends there. So dig that. Hey, I'll be looking for that. Hey, I'm not gonna say no, especially like I said, Mickey. That neck pickup. Just listen to that last video that I did and hear how beautiful it is. It's just gorgeous, and couldn't be more happier with it. And I want to thank you for because of that contribution you made that video happen. So thank you. Yeah, guys. So we'll be covering that. That will be the one and only topic of that video. I think it'll just be the giveaway. So that will be coming up at some point this week because that's easy to show. I'll be frank with you. With a show with content like the last one that I did, a little behind the scenes. So what I'll do is I'll script it out. What am I going to say? What are the main topics? First of all, what is the subject? What are the topics that I'm going to cover in that? Sort of do a little bit of research if I'm versed in it or not, and then shoot it. And I don't do a lot of takes. I've gotten better, and I think the live stream has helped too. It keeps me in a very, once I know the main talking points, I can coherently just go through them. I can get sidetracked, of course, but I can go right back to them. I hope you guys can see that. I still have that cognitive function going for me, even at my advanced age, and then I have to edit it. And if there's something like with this where I was doing a blind sound test, then I have to record. I have to mic up the amp like I did in this case. Record the sound demos with 3 guitars, and of course edit those down and stick those in. It's a bit of work to do a video like that, and every now and then I like a little vacation from something like that. So a giveaway, actually, as I sit here and think about it, a giveaway only kind of thing coming up this week sounds really appealing to me. So because that's a one-shot kind of thing. Hey, hey, you won. And I do wish you guys a lot of luck, everybody who's entered in. So I'll be shooting that this week. Yeah, guys, really having fun with these live streams. I'm really digging it. I'm digging other people's show. I want to mention, again, before I forget, to mention that there's friends of this channel that you guys need to be supporting. One of them is Peahan Shih Tzu. One of the OG, if not, there's 2 guys, and one of them, unfortunately, I've lost track of. I hope he's all right. But he is the OG supporter of this channel. He's been here since the beginning, to my knowledge, and his channel is booming now. He's coming out with content, special content every Wednesday, where he's releasing one of his own composition tracks. And this guy, I like his tunes. One of the beautiful things I like about music is that I can dig other people who play in styles that I can't. Or so his tunes are, I love them. Especially this last one, "Cat Piss on a Rose Bush." "Cat Pissing on a Rose Bush" is the name of the track, and you guys gotta check it out. I really like it. I really like the bridge section. It's got something to it. It's got some meat to it. So you guys. What is his name again? Mike. Peahan Shih Tzu. Peahan, so P-E-E, Han, H-A-N-D, so Peahan, and Shih Tzu, the dog. Peahan Shih Tzu. check out his channel. Check out that track. Go there, give him a thumbs up, and give him support, some love and support, because he's been there since the beginning. And every Wednesday, he's going to be coming out with a track. You guys are going to dig his tracks, his music. I know you're going to like this song. Listen to his last one. I just came out with cat pissing on Rosebush. I really like the bridge. It's a funky rock kind of thing. I can't put. It reminds me of something, but I like it in his playing. It's just him riffing. So check it out. There are other guys whose channels that we appreciate and that we also are happy that they're putting out content. The Guitarista, I like his channel. So check him out. Really good content. You guys know the regulars. Go check them out. The ones that I mentioned here, the ones that come up off the top of my head when I remember to, because when we build a community, we build it all the way around, and we all support each other, and that's how you have a community. That I don't know of any other way, to do that. So. And certainly with the Upstairs to Ride music channel, we're doing this from the ground up. I don't do social media. I'm not on Twitter. I'm not on Instagram. This is it. This is the way that I have chosen to expose my life, talk about things in my life. I'm an extremely private person, but any news of the album? Oh, thank you. So, as you guys know, a couple of months ago, I sent my album off to my good friend, Grammy-nominated producer Jock Richmond. Unfortunately, Jock really ran into some family issues that hit at the same time. He is still experiencing those for the most part. So, put him in your thoughts. A good friend of mine for decades now. And so... Actually, I have decided to take it upon myself to do the mastering myself. And another thing that I've decided to do is I do want to put I'm not trying to sell anything on this channel, but I would like to directly put this album out through this channel. Through a Patreon or something like that kind of experience where you can give me $5 or whatever dollars or whatever, and you'll get a free download of the album. Maybe do something where I can get enough of support where I can print up actual vinyl copy of this, a limited amount. For those people who might be interested in that. So those are my plans for the record. And so I'm going to have to master it myself. Now, I've mastered that. Yeah, that's what I want to do. Because, you guys, I would rather, I've got, 1,700 subscribers at that point. 10% of those are really going to be the ones that are going to support your channel. 10% are always going to be, it's that core 10% that supports and makes up a channel. At this point, there's 170 people that really, at various times in various ways, really support this channel. And if I just sold 170 copies at whatever somebody wanted to give me to have a copy of that, I would rather do that than put it up on iTunes or some of the, the usual suspects and receive that 0.000868% of a penny that I would get for putting up on that platform. I just, I'd rather have in the hands of a few hundred, or maybe down the road, because I won't stop. It'll be something that I'll constantly be promoting and selling from here once I do start doing that. But I'd rather put it in the hands of a few hundred or a few thousand people than just, than to give it to that machinery, because they, that there is no real support for the independent artist at this point through those kinds of platforms. It's just non-existent. The money is not there. The kind of royalty, I'm lucky, and even in that case, the commercial music, briefs that I'm getting are far and few between these days. I'm expecting one coming up here, fingers crossed. Uh, but those pay still pretty well. But for the meat and potatoes musician out there, it's pretty dire. And even the live scene is drying up out there. So I would rather do something like that, and put it in the hands of a few hundred people who really dig the music, who are interested in where I'm coming from, and even in a situation like that, you can ask me, "Hey, what were you talking about in this song? What was this about?" Or how did you get this sound? Or well, if I can have that kind of interaction too, that makes the project a lot more interesting. So that's where we're at with that. I am going through the process of starting to master it. I've mastered all my other albums myself. Oh, no, with the exception of the very first one. I actually had that mastered in Tokyo. But I quickly learned the mastering process and said, hey, you know what? Much like my hero, Ray Parker Jr., who mixes and masters his own stuff, just do it yourself. Learn how to do it yourself. So I will be mastering this one as well. And that is my plans for it. Thank you for asking. And I hope you guys support me when I do come out with it. And I'd like to hear your feedback if that sounds like something that's viable. I certainly think it is. I hope it is. All right, so that is it for this week, guys. I hope you enjoyed the live stream as much as I enjoyed doing it here with you tonight. Enjoyed the topic a lot. Sounds like a thank you. I appreciate that. Again, I can't help, it's weird. I can't turn off this creative process. Looking forward to the album when it comes out. Yeah, thank you. I can't turn this creative process off in my mind. Even now, great show. Thank you, Ben. Even right now, guys, I'm not lying when I tell you that I have more than half of the next album already written. I've already got most, I got halfway through in my, and it's all it's up here. But I've got it all. I've got just like I get, So I can't turn this process off, but I would like it. I like people to hear it, and I do appreciate this channel. I appreciate people like you taking the time to listen to me talk about these silly topics, my musings on these things every week, and to let me know that if I did a project like that, if I put something out like that, that you would support me. That I can't beat that. No man can live in a bubble by himself. No man can achieve anything by himself. We all need partners, friends, associates in order to move forward in our lives. If we're forward-moving people, which I believe most of us all are here. Thank you for helping me move forward. I will be seeing you next Sunday, of course, here, God willing. Same time, same bat channel. Again, the regular show this week will be the giveaway. If you haven't watched, have a good night. Thank you. Thank you so much. If you guys haven't watched the last regular content show with the 335 versus LP sound test, check that out right now. And don't forget to give this video and that video a thumbs up. Thank you so much for taking time to watch. And you guys have a good week and keep safe out there. You guys take care. Bye-bye.